You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, over in Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else, inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. We welcome you into the Chad Hasty Show. Glad to have you with us today on the program. The day after Iowa. And, well, we kind of knew what was going to happen in the Iowa caucuses. No big surprise. I guess maybe the one surprise is that Ron DeSantis came in second place, a distant second place. We'll get to some of the fallout from last night's Iowa caucus, some of the reaction from the media. We've even got worldwide reaction as some people very, very worried about what this means for Europe moving into the rest of the year, then after the presidential election. We've got also some other national headlines that we're going to be getting into throughout the program today. The Wall Street Journal calling on at least one candidate to drop out of the race. We'll tell you about that. And Americans now triggered whenever they go to the grocery store. Yes, we've got that story. And also a story left over from yesterday where the FAA, they're doing a lot of diversity hiring in the FAA, including to make the FAA better and to include improve safety standards within the FAA. They want to hire people who are blind and people who are even paralyzed to do the work of the FAA. So that's interesting. We'll get to that story from the New York Post a little bit later on in the program, probably in the next hour. We'll get to that story. We want to hear from you today. Your reaction to the Iowa caucus from last night, the results. Are you surprised by anything? You've heard the national reaction all day long. Are you surprised by anything that happened last night in Iowa? And what do you think needs to happen from here? Is it time for Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis to drop out? The big announcement today that nobody actually saw coming, Asa Hutchinson actually dropped out of the race, which a lot of people were surprised he was still in the race. Vivek Ramaswamy, yesterday, he dropped out last night. I thought he'd give a fine goodbye speech and endorsed former President Donald Trump in his goodbye speech, which everybody kind of saw and everyone knew that was eventually going to happen. But what about for Ron DeSantis? What about for Nikki Haley? Ron DeSantis last night in his second place speech said that he had punched a ticket to keep going. Now, where that ticket goes, nobody really knows. He's going to be in South Carolina. He's pretty much skipping New Hampshire because he's not doing well in New Hampshire. But in South Carolina, he's a very distant third place. Nikki Haley, a very distant second place to Donald Trump's first place. So if you're Ron DeSantis, do you really have the time to make up the distance between you and Trump? Trump, again, not getting any weaker. Trump is gaining momentum and gaining strength. If Trump were a hurricane, he's at a Category 5 hurricane right now. He's at a Category 5, and he continues to gain strength within the Republican Party. And so Nikki Haley, I know last night she said it was a two-person race between her and Trump, which is funny because she came in third place last night. So these candidates other than Trump are living in a different reality, a different world in which, let me tell you, they still hope that the guy somehow doesn't get the nomination, that somehow he is prevented from getting the nomination, that he is arrested, that he is thrown in jail, that he's thrown in prison, that he is prevented from running. That is the only hope that Nikki Haley has. That's the only hope that Ron DeSantis really has. That's the game they are playing right now, is that Donald Trump will be prevented from running. Because right now, if you look at the results from Iowa last night, where Trump almost won every single county in Iowa. If it weren't for Nikki Haley, there was one county that Nikki Haley won by one vote. And actually, if you dig deep into that county, it was like many other counties that Nikki Haley did well in. It was a large number of Democrat voters who crossed party lines and voted with Republicans. These aren't people who are going to promise to vote for Nikki Haley in the general election. They just want to take down Trump. And so they were able to get Nikki Haley a one county by one vote win last night in Iowa. In New Hampshire, it's another open primary. The reason why Nikki Haley is doing well in New Hampshire, because of crossover voters, Democrats, moderates, who are switching parties. They're declaring themselves, I declare myself a Republican. And they're voting for Nikki Haley, not because they like Nikki Haley, but because they hate Donald Trump. That's the Nikki Haley coalition. It is establishment Republicans. It is undecideds and moderates. And it's Democrat switchover voters who are going to switch over during the primary, but not during the general election. These are Democrats who are going to vote for Joe Biden. They just hate Donald Trump. That's the Nikki Haley coalition. And that really should tell you everything you need to know about Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis, he's not getting any Democrats switching over. No, it's all Nikki Haley who's getting the switchover Democrats moving over to her side and helping her in New Hampshire. But outside of New Hampshire, she's not doing well anywhere. So this thing's just about done. I think it's already done and over. Nikki Haley refusing to participate in a debate that was scheduled for this week. ABC having to cancel that debate. She doesn't want to be on the debate stage with Ron DeSantis again. I don't blame her after he pretty much destroyed her in the last debate that those two had. And overall, it is a waste of time if Trump isn't going to be on stage. So your reaction to last night's Iowa Caucus results. We have 35 days left before early voting in Texas. Yeah, it's going to go pretty quickly. We've got candidates who will be joining us throughout the rest of the week, including tomorrow when we will visit with John Smithy. We will also visit with Chase Yarborough, who is a candidate in the Republican Party for SD 30. So we've got those two candidates tomorrow. Of course, John Smithy running for re-election of course, as a state representative. And then on Thursday, Wade Cowan is scheduled to join us here in the studio. So we've got guests coming in the rest of this week. Today, free and clear for you to sound off on any of the candidates, any of the issues from last night that you want to get into. Something else we'll be talking about as well. We'll get you updated on those who are running for Lubbock City Council as that list continues to grow. We'll tell you who all is running, or at least who all has picked up packets to run for office. They may not have filed yet, but they have picked up packets saying that they are interested in running for office. How do you get in touch with us? It's real simple. You can text in 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can also give us a call at 1-800-687-0790. That's 1-800-687-0790. 800-848-0790. The text line open as well. Remember to leave us your name and where you're listening from whenever you do text in at 806-680-2790. One of the stories that I was looking at earlier today, I love this one, the global media reaction to Donald Trump's big win in Iowa. The consensus from U.S. media, Trump is inevitable. China, also the Chinese state-owned tabloid, the Global Times, said Trump's victory in Iowa reinforced the U.S.'s populism tendency. Experts told the outlet that while Chinese public has fun witnessing the drama of the U.S. election, the country should not be under any illusion that one particular candidate wins may lead to any significant positive adjustments in U.S.-China policy. Times of Israel highlighted Trump's claim that he would resolve the Israeli-Hamas war, quote, very fast, noting that his Iowa victory turned his ongoing criminal and civil prosecutions into a rallying cry that has galvanized his followers. In Europe, I like this headline, Europe fears isolation and global insecurity with Trump's rise. Haven't we heard all this before? The Belgian Prime Minister warning that a Trump White House could mean that Europe will be on its own more than ever before, while Germany said that a Trump win could mean that the U.S. will isolate economically and that Europe, quote, must prepare for a world in which Europeans are much more on our own. Foreign diplomats increasingly alarmed that America's deepening partisan divide will adversely affect its ability to mediate global security. Really? Now, I don't think it's the partisan divide. We've had a partisan divide for a while in this nation. It's a weak president that has made America weaker and has shown an inability to mediate, quote, global security. We're not mediating anything. We're sending money overseas. We're not mediating anything between Ukraine and Russia. We're funding one side of it. We're sending tons of cash and weapons to Ukraine. We're not mediating anything at all. One European diplomat telling Politico, if foreign policy issues become domestic political theater, it becomes increasingly challenging for America to effectively play its global role on issues that need long-term commitment in U.S. political capital. Well, again, this is coming from the very same Europeans who go through and trash talk Donald Trump and trash talked him when he was president of the United States. They didn't want Trump anywhere near the podium anytime soon. And now all of a sudden they're like, well, you know, if the America continues down this partisan divide, I mean, who's gonna pay the bills? Who's gonna send the military everywhere? I mean, this it may fall on us to do more of this stuff. That's what they're worried about. Because remember last time, Donald Trump wanted Europe to pay up a little bit more than what they have been paying. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and more on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The continued fallout of Iowa. We'll break it all down for you. Plus, 6 days until New Hampshire. Any big surprises? Any major story? We will discuss that. Plus, Buck.
What are the Democrats doing given the rising panic that's going on? We'll discuss. Plus, Senator Tommy Tuberville is going to be on the program. That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Welcome back to the Chad Easty Show. Hope you're having a wonderful day out there. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790, where you can weigh in on any of the topics. Anything that you would like to sound off on, you can do that. Let's see. How about this? This story, what do we got here? Out of Study Finds. Study Finds Love versus Politics, how news coverage triggers fights in divided couples. U.S. politics continues to heat up ahead of the 2024 presidential election. Researchers from the University of Illinois offering a peek into the struggles of American couples with opposing political viewpoints. American politics have been extremely polarizing for quite some time. Republicans and Democrats, whether it be on Capitol Hill or on social media, appear incapable of civil interaction. Team at U of I set out to investigate what impact it has on the estimated 30% of American adults in relationships with partners who do not share their political views. Communications professor Emily Van Duyn had held in-depth interviews with 67 people dating someone with opposing political views. Quote, their cross-cutting political views presented many challenges for these couples, she said in a press release. Deciding which media to consume and whether to do so together or separately was difficult because it presented them with a choice about recognizing their differences and finding a way to navigate them. Notably, news coverage, particular activated differences between partners that would have otherwise remained hidden, ultimately sparking conflict as well as discussion and debate. The differing political beliefs or identities in relationships created the need for couples to influence or negotiate their news consumption. Researchers call the process negotiated exposure. Among all the individuals interviewed, 39 women, 27 were men, one person identified as non-binary, of course. The majority of participants were in heterosexual relationships and had been seeing their partner for more than 2 years. Most were white, 11 black, 11 were Asian. They talked about how many of the couples had a lot of friction. Seen Trump on TV and seen Biden as well. So shocking news. Differing political views create tension in a relationship. Shocking news out there. 806-680-2790. Yeah, I would imagine that. I would imagine for a lot of couples, that's and it's something you should probably talk about before the long term. Again, for those who are I guess if you don't care too much about politics, maybe it's something you don't care about if your significant other is on a different political persuasion than you. But, for those who are very interested in politics, very interested in the direction of the country, I would think that, it would create quite a bit of tension if you had opposite political beliefs. Story out of the folks over at MSN and the LA Times. Nikki Haley's best and perhaps last chance to beat Trump is next week in New Hampshire. The prominence of moderates remains three things for the GOP. Haley, the former South Carolina governor and ambassador to the UN, has a decent chance of beating the former president in next Tuesday's primary. See, I think her chances are getting worse. And maybe it's just me. But I think Trump's going to build up momentum out of this thing. And I think most people are going to look at him as the done deal and that he's the nominee. And I think you're going to have people start rallying behind Trump. Because New Hampshire differs so much from the Republican norm, Trump remains the overwhelming favorite to win almost everywhere else. The alienation of moderates from GOP remains a significant risk for Trump's chances in a general election against President Biden, despite the incumbent's current weak standing. Now, here's the deal. They like to say that the alienation of moderates from the GOP. That's a bunch of BS. The Democrats have gone much, much, much more extreme than Trump, and much more extreme than the Republicans have. The media just doesn't want to admit it. 10% of Chris Christie's supporters, 22% of Haley's backers said they would vote for Trump in a general election matchup against the Democrat president. Again, only 10% of Chris Christie's supporters and 22% of Haley backers in New Hampshire said they would vote for Trump in the general election against a Democrat. Again, tells you everything you need to know about the Nikki Haley coalition. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
There will be one less birthday party to celebrate today. One less coffee date with a friend today. One less family dinner today. Because there will be one less motorcycle rider on the road today. On average, a motorcyclist is killed on Texas roads every day. When you're behind the wheel, obey the speed limit and be extra careful at intersections. Let's start turning that one less into one more. Please share the road and look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from TxDOT.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans deserve to know about the best services available to them. VA's new radio outreach page is a prime source for that information. The page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio, houses public service announcements that educate veterans on a cross-section of topics. That's news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to The Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to The Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there today. You can send your thoughts in on the text line, 806-680-2790. How about this? The Hard Rock going to build a 189-room hotel and conference center on Lake Texoma. Be part of a $1 billion master planned community on the Oklahoma side of the lake. Hard Rock International began construction in March of the 189-room hotel and conference center on Lake Texoma. The Florida-based hospitality firm said today that it's partnering with the on the project with Point Vista Holding, a firm building a $1 billion, 2,700-acre master-planned resort community on the west side of the Roosevelt Memorial Bridge near Kingston, Oklahoma. A development stretching along 19 miles of shoreline, designed to include a golf course, enclosed water park, family entertainment center, amphitheater, casino, and an 11-acre Caribbean Bay water area with white sand beaches right there in Oklahoma. The development also includes the Chickasaw Point Golf Course and the 320-slip Catfish Bay Marina. Lake Texoma attracting nearly 7 million visitors a year and hosts multiple fishing and golf tournaments, the country's 14th largest reservoir. Last May, Chickasaw Nation opened the West Bay Casino and Resort overlooking the lake near Kingston, the 9,600 square foot casino featuring 275 slot machines, table games, and a restaurant. has 40 guest rooms and 10 lakefront rental cabins. So the Hard Rock moving on to Lake Texoma. By the way, there's a few other stories out about more gambling, not coming to Texas, but at least some of the gaming industry buying up land and possibly hoping that something will happen at some point in Texas where you see casino gambling. Some text messages coming in on the text line, 806-680-2790. One texter, Bill out in North Carolina, wondering when Nikki Haley became another Liz Cheney. Well, I won't say she's as bad as Liz Cheney. I mean, Liz Cheney is a full never Trumper. He locked the guy up. You haven't heard that from Nikki Haley. In fact, Nikki Haley was, pretty nice to Trump yesterday in her remarks. She congratulated Trump for his victory in Iowa. Trump, for his part, was pretty nice to Nikki Haley and to Ron DeSantis in his remarks that he gave as well. So everyone was pretty much playing nice together yesterday in Iowa in their remarks that they delivered. So I'm not going to say that Nikki Haley is as bad as Liz Cheney, but here's the deal with Nikki Haley. She is the exact same type of Republican that you've had and that you've seen and that has run time and time and time and time again. You're going to agree with them on a majority of issues. You're going to agree with them a lot of the time. They are better than the Democrats. They're better than the woke liberal left. But at the same time, they do, and Nikki Haley is just fine getting into foreign entanglements. This attitude that we saw, some of these comments that we saw overnight out of Europe. What's Europe going to do? What if the U.S. is looking at America first and that Europe may be on its own for a while? Well, the truth is Europe's not going to be, quote unquote, on its own. The U.S. is not going to go full isolationist. But under Trump, he's going to put the country first, which I'm fine with. I'm okay putting the United States first. If you're the commander-in-chief, you do what is best for the United States first. First and foremost, you take care of the United States. And that's what Trump talks about. That we don't have to send the military all over the place, that we don't have to get involved in every single foreign entanglement that's out there, that we can show strength and prevent some of these foreign entanglements from even happening. Let's be honest. If Trump were president right now, do you really think Russia would be in Ukraine? Do you really think that we'd have the terrorist attack in Israel? You think that you would see all the Houthi attacks on our ships? No, I don't think we would, because we would be projecting strength. You would have nations that respected the United States. Right now, just about every nation on earth knows they can get away with anything because the United States is not strong. We do not have strong leadership in the White House. Nikki Haley is just like George W. Bush, just like John McCain, just like Mitt Romney. And yes, there are differences between all three of them, but you see where I'm going here is that she is just another establishment Republican. You're going to agree with her on some issues, and then on some other issues, you're going to say, wait a minute, we want to go in a different direction. And Trump offers that different direction. Ron DeSantis, in my opinion, also offers that different direction versus what we see with a Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley likes to flip-flop on a lot of different issues, depending on who she's talking to, which crowd she's in front of. Nikki Haley needs Democrats in order to win. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot about the average, the Nikki Haley supporter out there. that according to this poll, just 22% of the Nikki Haley supporters. Hang on, let me bring this back up. Yeah, 22% of Haley backers said that they would vote for Trump in a general election matchup against the Democrat president, according to a survey out of New Hampshire last week. 22%. That's telling me that Nikki Haley is getting either a lot of never-Trumpers who are voting for her, a lot of moderates, or a lot of Democrats, or maybe a mix of all three. And that's not good. That's not the coalition that we need to take this country back and to improve the country. Nikki Haley is doing a fine job right now being a former UN ambassador, being a former governor. She's doing a great job in that position. And that's where I think she should stay. 806-680-2790. Let's see. Mark in California, Iowa and New Hampshire are jokes as the first primaries. Later primaries are more realistic to the voters' mood. And you're probably right about that, Mark. But do you think anything's going to change between Iowa and Super Tuesday? Do you think anything's going to really change when it comes to Trump being the nominee? Now listen, Iowa is so crazy that we have seen before many times where whoever wins Iowa does not necessarily mean they win the presidency. Does not necessarily mean that they win the party's nomination. Hello, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz won the Iowa Caucus, and last time I checked, he has not become president of the United States, nor won the Republican primary or the Republican nomination for president. Robin Abilene, Haley's from the industrial war machine. And given many of her comments, it's hard to disagree with that. And that's what turns people away. The people, they do not want war right now. They do not want the U.S. to get involved in these proxy wars. They do not want they want security. They want protection from terrorists. Sure, even to defend Israel. But they don't want to get involved in a proxy war with Iran, where we're going to maybe, possibly end up sending our men and women overseas. People don't want that. This country is tired of that right now. And Nikki Haley, if she's the nominee, well, she's not going to be, but if she were the nominee, could you really say that she's going to offer a break from what we've seen in the past? I don't think so. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your text messages, your phone calls, and much more here on the Chad Hasty Show.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The continued fallout of Iowa. We'll break it all down for you. Plus, 6 days until New Hampshire. Any big surprises? Any major story? We will discuss that. Plus, Buck.
What are the Democrats doing given the rising panic that's going on? We'll discuss. Plus, Senator Tommy Tuberville is going to be on the program. That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
A tornado is on the ground. You're at work, your spouse is at a meeting, the kids are at 3 different schools. Power and cell are out, and your home is inaccessible. Now what? Have a preset meetup plan. Share it with everyone in your family and practice it. Know the emergency plans at work and school, too. Get ahead of what's ahead. Be informed, make a plan, build a kit. Hashtag Texas Ready. Go to txready.org for more information.
Nick you've been doing so well with the music lately, and people have been very happy, very nice, very complimentary of you and the music. And then we're picking Mbop for this one. Really, that's where we're going. Okay, all right. Thin ice already. It's only Tuesday. 806. He is back to wearing a sweater. I will say that. Yeah. Maybe you need to go back to the hoodie. The Mbop. Who did that one, by the way? Who was the Hanson? Thank you. Hanson. I was trying to think who the band was back in the was it the 90s? Early 90s, late early 2000s. Anyway, they were a long time ago. In the Wayback Machine. Had a text earlier, actually it was late yesterday, asking about those who are running for Lubbock City Council and the mayor. And we have sort of an update on who all has picked up packets. Now, these are just people who have expressed interest, if you will, in running. Steve Massingale, he's announced that he's running for mayor, so he is indeed running. But these are people who have picked up packets. Mark McBrayer has also picked up a packet. Let's see. Adam Hernandez has announced that he's running, but he hasn't picked up a packet yet. But I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will file. Steven Sanders has said that he's running, and he's picked up a packet to run for mayor of Lubbock. And then you have a couple of other names on here. Nicholas Lamb is someone who has picked up a packet. Not sure if they'll file. George Hartfield has picked up a packet to run for mayor. And Colton Bacon is so all those folks have picked up packets to run for mayor. As of right now, no one has picked up a packet or I guess shown any interest whatsoever in running for District 2 of the Lubbock City Council. District 4, Harrison Braden Rose has picked up a packet and is announcing officially kicking off his campaign tomorrow over at Lubbock City Hall. We've got a story up about that announcement over at KFYO.com. And District 6, Lance Jordan is running, and so is Timothy Collins. Tim Collins. You've probably seen his signs around town already. In District 6, I've seen a few of those popping up. And so those are just some of the candidates who are running for office in the upcoming city council race in Lubbock. Now, we also have a race that's going to be for District 3. Since Mark McBrayer is running for mayor, so for McBrayer's term, David Glasheen is running for that position, and he's made his announcement. I think it was last week is when that went out. So there you go. There's the list of names, people running for Lubbock City Council as we have them right now. Another texter. Good comments, Chad. I just think the later primaries give us a better idea of the true voter mood, but I do believe Trump will be victorious. I think all candidates should stick it through Super Tuesday. Then we will know. Well, here's the deal. Here's why some candidates will not stick through Super Tuesday. Money. That's really what it comes down to. If they can convince people to give them money, Nikki Haley's coming through Texas, going to do a swing through Texas pretty soon, do some fundraisers in order to raise money for her campaign. When the money starts drying up, that's when the candidates drop out. It's not because they look at the map and go, I really don't have a pathway to winning here. I'm pretty sure that for Vivek Ramaswamy, it was one of those where the money was starting to dry up. But it was just about over. So if Ron DeSantis can keep raising money, and how do you keep raising money? You convince enough people that you've actually got a chance of winning, then he'll keep running. Same for Nikki Haley. Texter, was Nick even born when Hansen was around? Nick has no idea. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Let us know who you are, where you're from when you text into the show. We like to know those things whenever you do text in. You can send in your thoughts as well. Get in your thoughts on the phones at 1-800-687-0790. The editorial board over at the Wall Street Journal, Iowa gives Trump 2 a boost. New Hampshire, the best chance to make it a real GOP race. And even then, it's one of those real with an asterisk nearby because, again, Trump is up by about 50 points everywhere else. It's not even close anywhere. Again, it's like we are living in an alternative world. We're like, well, maybe. And I know the news media, I know there's a lot of those in the news media, a lot of the, obviously in the liberal news media that don't want Trump back. And there's a lot of people in the Republican conservative news media that don't want Trump back. Hell, go look at National Review. They don't want Trump back. They've never wanted him in the first place. They still won't admit that he did anything good in his first term. But anyway, Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump romped to victory in Iowa Caucus on Monday, launching the former president on his quest for a third GOP nomination. The vote nonetheless revealed weaknesses that could pose a problem in a general election, so Republicans in New Hampshire should think hard if they want to gamble on another Trump run. Trump's victory was the widest in Iowa Caucus history for a non-incumbent race, with close to 51% of the vote at this riding for Trump. Ron DeSantis about 21%, and Nikki Haley at about, what was she, like 19%, something around there. The result is a show of organizational strength for Trump that he didn't have in 2016 when he lost the state to Ted Cruz. It's also a sign that he is running almost as a quasi-incumbent in the eyes of his supporters. How did you not know that before? There was a stat yesterday on Fox News where they had asked people, when did you make your decision about who you're going to vote for? And I think the vast majority of people had said months ago. Months ago. Had already made the choice months ago. Wasn't even Last week, nah. 2 weeks ago, nah. During the debates, nah. Months ago, made their decision. President Biden and Democrats claim to loathe Trump, but they also have helped to make another Trump nomination possible. Biden's failing presidency and unpopularity have diminished the argument that Trump can't win again, despite the GOP's multiple election defeats since he came to dominate the Republican Party. The four Democratic indictments and attempts to strike him from the ballot have also rallied Republicans behind Trump to put a thumb in the eye of the Democrat left. Trump plays martyr for the cause, known at every rally. Iowa Caucus, Trump said on the weekend, are your personal chance to score the ultimate victory over the liars, cheaters, thugs, perverts, frauds, crooks, creeps, and other quite nice people. All of this has made it far more difficult for opponents to break through. Mr. DeSantis seemed to be the likeliest candidate to do so after his 2022 victory and stellar governing record in a fast-growing Florida. But his Iowa result is disappointing after he invested so much time and money in the state. He tried a version of the Cruz strategy by running to Trump's right on abortion as an anti-woke warrior, but there isn't much room in that lane. The Florida governor earned some evangelical support in Iowa for Florida's ban on abortion after 6 weeks, but Trump ran as the president whose Supreme Court appointees voted to overturn Roe. DeSantis faces no clear path to the nomination. He's well behind Haley in New Hampshire and South Carolina. If he believes, as he says, that Trump can't win in November, he should leave the race and give Haley a chance to take on Trump one-on-one. Now, the editorial goes on. You can go and read it for yourself over at the Wall Street Journal. But this idea that DeSantis should drop out because Nikki Haley is the true Trump alternative. Now, I disagree with that. Do I think Ron DeSantis should drop out? Probably so. It's over. Ron DeSantis is not going to be the nominee. I know he's hoping to be the nominee, but he's not going to be the nominee. It's not going to happen for Ron DeSantis. He made a mistake. Ron DeSantis should have set it out. He shouldn't have run. He should have waited. But the lure of the White House, let me tell you, it gets people. I just read a stat this time last year. Let me bring this up. Yeah, this time last year, DeSantis was 12 points ahead of Trump in New Hampshire. Now he's down big, or as Trump would say, bigly. He's got no shot. But here's where I disagree with the Wall Street Journal. I don't want Nikki Haley to stand in the way of Trump. I don't believe she's a Trump alternative. I think she's a Republican alternative. I think that she is a moderate alternative. She's not a Trump alternative. I would much rather have Ron DeSantis than Nikki Haley as the nominee. I would much rather have Ron DeSantis as the nominee than Nikki Haley. So if Nikki Haley's going to stay in this thing, I kind of hope that Ron DeSantis stays in it just to battle her. If there is any type of rise, which again, I don't think there will be, but if there's any chance to blunt Nikki Haley, to stop Nikki Haley's rise, I kind of hope then Ron DeSantis kind of stays in this thing. Because we really don't need Nikki Haley in the White House. Again, I don't think that she's going to get the nomination. I think it's going to be Trump. I think this thing is over. And honestly, I think Trump was right last night when he said that everyone needs to pretty much drop out of this thing and unite behind Trump. The Republican Party needs to unite. The conservatives need to unite. The Republicans need to unite behind Donald Trump and put all the money moving forward towards beating Joe Biden. That's what needs to happen. If you don't like Donald Trump, guess what? In a couple of years, you can start running your own race. If Trump's elected, he's going to be a lame duck. Within a couple of years, you can start running. We'll do this whole thing over again. But I think some of the comments that I've seen about how you need to think about your future. You need to think about, some of these candidates need to think about their future in the party. I think that's right. I think for Ron DeSantis, I think for Nikki Haley, just stop. I think for Nikki Haley, if I'm right in my prediction that Trump wins New Hampshire, she has to drop out. She's got no other shot. She's got nothing. DeSantis, maybe he's hoping for some momentum, but I don't see him getting out of Iowa with any momentum. He shouldn't have any momentum. He basically moved to Iowa and he got 21% of the vote. Trump showed up a couple of times and he dominated. Some of you may hate this. Some of you may get very mad at what I'm about to say. This is still Donald Trump's party. And I know it upsets a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump. They don't like how he acts. They don't like what he says. You got to wake up to reality. And the reality is this is Trump's party. The voters want Trump. And it's not going to change from Iowa, maybe New Hampshire, but they're a little moderate to liberal. But you look ahead to Super Tuesday, you look ahead at the states for Super Tuesday, go through and look at the polls. Trump is way ahead. He's way ahead here in Texas. He's way ahead in just about every other state. Or, yes, in every state. He's way ahead. So this thing's over. And Nikki Haley needs to drop out. DeSantis needs to drop out. Get behind Trump. Put all the money towards defeating Joe Biden because that is what matters. That is what matters the most, is keeping the Democrats out of the White House this election cycle. You got to do it. And those of you who are never Trumpers out there, those of you who in the last election went, I can't do it, Chad. I can't vote for him. He's mean on Twitter. I can't do it. He doesn't represent my values. He says so many bad things. I just can't vote for him. Yeah, well, how's that gone for you the last few years? Let me ask you something. Would you rather roll your eyes at a bad tweet that he sends out or keep paying high inflation prices like we're seeing at the grocery store? Which one would you rather do? Which one would you rather wake up to every day? Oh, my God, I can't believe Trump said that. Or, oh, my gosh, how much more does the groceries cost today? Oh, my goodness. Put things in a little perspective. 806-680-2790. You can send in your thoughts on the text line. Give us a call, 1-800-687-0790. When we come back, got a story here about from Axios. Americans triggered when they go to the grocery store. We've got that to get to. Also, the FAA and their new diversity hirings. We'll get to that story next.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The continued fallout of Iowa. We'll break it all down for you. Plus, 6 days until New Hampshire. Any big surprises? Any major story? We will discuss that. Plus, Buck.
What are the Democrats doing given the rising panic that's going on? We'll discuss. Plus, Senator Tommy Tuberville is going to be on the program. That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Reynolds, join me and Kevin McCarthy for the Car Pro Show Saturday mornings at 11 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. Texter says when Trump was president, he ran the country like a business. And if he wins the election in November, he'll run this country like a business again. That's why we were doing really well as a nation when Trump was president. I believe he ran the country like it should have been ran. I could care less about the other things that people say he has or hasn't done. That's why I will vote for Trump. He may not be the nicest person out there, but he's the best thing for our nation at this particular point in time. All right. Let's see. Paul out of San Angelo. I totally agree with you on DeSantis and Tricky Nicky. How about this out of Axios? And it's been also written about over at TexasPolicy.com. A new Axios poll bolsters the idea that Washington, D.C. policymakers and Bidenomics have utterly failed most Americans. Republicans, rural residents, renters, women, singles disproportionately feel like they're in a funk financially. 6 in 10 surveyed said that they're now triggered by trips to the grocery store. Grocery purchases are the top way. 72% Americans say they feel inflation in their daily lives. That's followed by gas prices at 56%. 2/3 of people think food will keep getting more expensive. Renters disproportionately likely to say that they're anxious. Now, these aren't good numbers from Axios. It's not good for the administration. Here's this research suggests that many Americans are consuming in denial, continuing to spend and run up credit card bills, even though they're short on cash, and they're looking to deflect some of that blame to leaders in government. So the CEO of the Harris poll, there's a sense of entitlement that Americans feel like we're worth it, so I might change my vote, but I'm not going to change my lifestyle. I can see a little bit of that. But I think also people do change their lifestyle. They change what they pick up at the grocery store. They pick what they change what type of food they buy at the grocery store. They look for better deals at the grocery store. Overall, near record share of Americans are working. They're confident enough in their prospects that consumer spending keeps rising. But they're also anxious. They're worried at the same time. So you have you have Americans who are working. You have Americans who are spending money, but at the same time, they're very anxious about where things are going to go. They're very worried about being able to afford groceries. See, this to me also has a little bit of a feeling of a lot of Americans have just kind of given up. They've resigned themselves to, well, this is it. This is going to be it for a while. I'm going to spend money. I'm going to enjoy life while I can, but grocery prices keep going up. Well, we'll see where I land. Everything should be okay, right? So I think you have some people who are just resigned to what they feel, what they see at the grocery store. But I think people have changed their way of life. I think people have changed a little bit of their spending habits. I've talked to many people who they don't go out to eat as much. What's bad about that is, well, that's having an impact on our mom and pop, mom and pop stores and restaurants around the world, or around the nation at least. We've seen a lot of places here locally close. Why? Because people aren't going. They can't afford the $16 burger. Or if they can't afford it, they just don't want to. They don't want to pay that much for a burger. See, that's the deal. Is that you got to get hit twice if you are a restaurant. You have the folks who can't afford to eat there anymore, and then you have the people who go, wait a minute. Remember when this meal was $12? Remember when this meal was $10? You could get out of here, and it was fairly cheap to get out of here and eat. Now they want $16 for that? Let's go home and make a sandwich. So you have that attitude that's out there. So I don't know. I disagree with part of this that says that Americans keep spending money the same way that they have been. I don't think so. I think they may shift it around. But I think Americans are changing their habits. At least those who I talk to, they've absolutely changed their habits. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more here on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auctions were mixed, reporting prices $5 lower to $15 higher. Cattle futures were up. February live cattle futures up $1.75, closed at $173.12. January feeder cattle futures up 97 to close at $227.55. March cotton futures are up, closed at 81.33. March wheat futures were down 13 cents, closed at 6.01 a bushel. March corn closed at 4.43, and March soybean futures up $3, closed at $12.27 a bushel. March soybean meal futures up $9, closed at $371.10 per ton. January Class B milk futures up a penny, closed at $15.16 a hundred. February crude oil futures down 28 cents, closed at $72.40 per barrel. And the Dow Jones is down 231 points, closed at 37,360. And that's Market Roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your Commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. So
the news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news. At the start, middle, and end of your drive home, and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there on this Tuesday. All right, how the story from the New York Post. I wanted to get to it earlier, but it's been delayed. The FAA's diversity push includes focusing on hiring people with severe intellectual disabilities. This is real. The Federal Aviation Administration is actively recruiting workers who suffer from severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruiting and hiring, the FAA's website states. They include hearing, vision, because why would you need vision when dealing with the FAA? You really don't. Hearing is probably something you don't need either when working with the Federal Aviation Administration. Missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis. I'm wondering what somebody who is completely paralyzed can do for the FAA. Epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism. Which, okay. I mean, never mind. The initiative, part of the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan, which claims that diversity is integral to achieving the FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel across our nation and beyond. Well, that's damn true. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've been in an airport. And I've been, going through a TSA line and going, if only the person over here was paralyzed, this line would be moving so much more efficiently and everything would be working out great. If only the pilot was a dwarf. Can I say that, Nick? Is dwarf okay? Midget. Little person. Which one is okay to say in America these days? Can I say midget? You should know. Nick's like, I don't care. Don't put this on me. If only the pilot was a midget, we would get we'd get to our destination faster. Here's what people care about when it comes to flying the friendly skies. They're tired of TSA. They're tired of the faux security that we have at the airports. They're tired of waiting in line, and they're tired of being packed inside airplanes that have no leg room whatsoever. That's what they're tired of. Oh, yeah. And they're sick and tired of flights being canceled and flights being overbooked. If you could fix that, everybody would be happy. I don't think anyone is sitting around going, dang it. If they would just hire people who were blind, that would solve everything. Again, the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan, which claims that diversity is integral into achieving the FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel across our nation and beyond. The FAA's website shows the agency guidelines on diversity hiring were last updated back in 2022. The FAA, overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg's Department of Transportation, is charged with regulating the civil aviation, employs roughly 45,000 people. Unknown how many midgets are employed by the FAA. All eyes have been on the airline industry and the FAA after a plug door on a Boeing 737 MAX 9 blew out during an Alaskan Airlines flight on January 5th. While If they had hired the guy who was paralyzed, that probably would have happened. If only they had had some blind maintenance workers, they probably would have fixed that issue. What's wrong with just saying, again, we're going to hire the best, most capable people. Doesn't matter the race, doesn't matter. If you are capable and you check all the boxes, as far as having the qualifications, not checking the fake boxes of, you're a dwarf, so you fit here. No. If you know how to do the job, you can do the job. That's really all people care about. That's all we should care about. Do you have the experience? Do you have the resume? Do you have what it takes to succeed in with the FAA? If the answer is yes, you get the job. That really should be about it. The FAA added it would increase its oversight of Boeing following the incident, including auditing Boeing's 737 MAX 9 jetliner production line and companies that supply parts to the airline manufacturer. Following the incident, social media commenters and public figures have charged that airlines and airline manufacturers' emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives have made flying less safe. Maybe it has. I don't know. Again, I want the best and brightest people hired for each position. I want the best and brightest people hired. When it comes to dealing with the airlines, nothing but the best. When it comes to who's in charge of that plane that I am getting in and flying, I don't care. If you're black, white, man, woman, none of that matters. Did you screw all the bolts onto the door? That kind of matters. That matters to me. Did you put the right fuel in the tank? Yeah? Okay. Good. Does the pilot know how to fly the aircraft if need be? Good. All right. And then I'm happy. Again, the best and the brightest. That's who you need to hire. This idea that, we've got to hire from this group and that group over there, to show that we are really about diversity. We got to hire people who are paralyzed and also have intellectual disabilities, and just hire the best people. No one cares. The only thing people care about when it comes to the FAA is landing safely. And they would like bigger planes. They would like more leg room on the aircraft if possible. Those are the two things people really, really want. They don't want to be annoyed at the airport. So 3 things. Stop the annoyances at the airport. Land safely. Take off safely. And give us a little bit more leg room. That would work out nicely. 806-680-2790, 1-800-687-0790. When we come back, we'll begin to wrap up today's show.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The continued fallout of Iowa. We'll break it all down for you. Plus, 6 days until New Hampshire. Any big surprises? Any major story? We will discuss that. Plus, Buck.
What are the Democrats doing given the rising panic that's going on? We'll discuss. Plus, Senator Tommy Tuberville is going to be on the program. That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
I'm Ryan Seacrest. First responders are people who stand for a greater purpose. They will be there for you when nobody else is, to help you, your family, your community. This is their selfless promise. This is their sworn duty to protect, to serve, to help. When you call 911, first responders show up now. Let's show up for the people who show up for us every day and every night.
Go to firstrcf.org and make a difference today.
It's First News, mornings at 5 on News Talk KFYO.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can weigh in on any of the topics that we have gotten into today. Lots of stuff out there. Lots of news happening as well. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have a couple of candidates on the program. Coming up at 5:35, John Smithy will join us, state representative, talk about his reelection campaign to the House. Also, Jace Yarborough will join us to talk about his race in the Republican primary there in SD 30, very crowded field there of candidates. And then on Thursday at 5:35, Wade Cowan will join us to discuss his campaign in the Republican primary. So we've got candidates coming up the next couple of days, and we'll have some more candidates next week as well that'll be appearing on the show. If you are a candidate running for office, whether it's a statewide office or a state rep or state senate, maybe you're looking at running for a local race. Those of you in Lubbock running for Lubbock City Council, already heard from a few of you. We'll get you on the show shortly for those races. But if you're a candidate running for office, we want to hear from you. We'll get you on the show. All you need to do is email me, chad@kfyo.com. That's chad@kfyo.com. And we'll get you on the show as soon as possible. That way you can talk to the voters and tell everybody why you're running and why they should vote for you. All right, let's see. As we begin to wrap things up, story coming out earlier today, Chuck Grassley in the hospital for treatment of infection. Senator Chuck Grassley's office saying that he's in the hospital receiving treatment for an infection. Quote, he's in good spirits. He'll return to work as soon as possible following doctor's orders. Grassley, 90 years old, has been serving in the U.S. Senate representing Iowa since 1981. The Republican from New Hartford won re-election back in 2022. His term runs through 2028. So he's been serving for quite a while. 806-680-2790. How about this? Thought this was it. Those of you who maybe shop at Costco. Costco, they're going to test out a new system for entering the store. Story from CNN starts off, bad news if you're mooching off of someone else's Costco membership. The retail giant has now begun to crack down. When you enter Costco, you need to show your membership card to an employee at the shop. Costco membership cards are non-transferable, but the company allows members to give a second household card to one other person in their home. Anyone with a card can bring up to 2 guests to the club during each visit. But Costco has noticed that non-members have been sneaking in with membership cards that don't belong to them, particularly since Costco expanded their self-checkout. Now Costco testing out a system that requires members to scan their membership cards at the store entrance instead of just flashing the card to the employee. Shoppers have spotted the new scanners at a store in Washington State, posted on Reddit about it. A Costco financial chief told CNN that more people have been sharing memberships since the pandemic in 2020. They said that they believe it'll speed up the process Scanners also mean that employees won't need to ask customers for their membership cards at cash registers and at the self-checkout. It'll speed up the process at entry and speeds up the process at checkout. I don't think it'll speed up anything at the entrance. You'll probably have a bottleneck. Costco had around 66 million paid members and 119 million cardholders in 2022, making it one of the largest membership clubs in the world. Costco members pay either $60 a year for a regular membership or $120 for an executive card, which includes additional perks. So they're cracking down on shared cards at Costco, and then I guess they're going to make you scan your card whenever you walk in. Story out of Politico. I love this. They're still trying to find the weaknesses within Trump. The guy just had the biggest victory in Iowa out of, I think, any Republican nominee ever. And they're still trying to pick apart everything and say, well, you did have a certain amount of people who voted for somebody else. Yeah, that's what happens in an election. And by the way, Trump blew away expectations. But you'll continue to see those headlines. Follow me on social media at Chad HD Radio. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. Stay warm out there. It's going to be another chilly night. Stay healthy. We'll catch you back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the Chad HD Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.